Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm your host, Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, retail tech investor, and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you the insights from some of retail's legends and leaders, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. January Digital is a marketing leadership company solving business challenges through consulting, media excellence, and actionable analytics for some of the most innovative, growth-oriented brands in the country, including Carhartt, Kendra Scott, Strivectin, and Steve Madden. Made up of January Consulting and January Digital, they offer strategic leadership services and full funnel media planning, execution, and optimization, leveraging data to provide insights, yielding client success. Bluecore's software solution turns anonymous online shoppers into known customers and repeat customers. Bluecore enables retailers to personalize and optimize their email, SMS, and site marketing campaigns by delivering targeted and relevant messages based on where every customer is in their journey. Bluecore replaces annoying high-volume messaging with high-value messaging. Customers include Alo Yoga, Neiman Marcus, and Gap. On this week's flight of the Retail Pilot, I am happy to have Denise Incandela, Executive Vice President of Fashion and Private Brands for Walmart U.S. In this role, Denise is propelling Walmart's reputation as a fashion destination, helping democratize access to stylish, quality apparel for Walmart's 140 million weekly shoppers. Before joining Walmart, Denise rose through the fashion industry ranks with roles as CEO of Aerosoles, President of Global Digital and Customer Experience for Ralph Lauren, and before that, EVP and CMO at Saks Fifth Avenue. Denise started her post-MBA career at McKinsey Company, where she was a leader of its retail practice. Denise is a visionary retail executive and experienced public company board director who has transformed luxury brands and mass retailers for over 20 years. And she is renowned across the industry for her innovation and vision, team leadership, and ability to drive results. Welcome to this week's Retail Pilot. On today's flight, I have a very good friend and a retail superstar, Denise Incandela. Denise, welcome to this flight.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
We've known each other for a number of years, and we've shared the retail war stories, which really leads me to my first question. What drove you to retail?
You know, it was not a direct route, Ken. I started in investment banking, which is quite unusual. And then I got my MBA in finance and worked in management consulting for 6 or 7 years. And as I was supporting many retailers while I was at McKinsey, Saks was one of them. And lo and behold, and this is really going to date me, Ken, they needed someone to launch their e-commerce business. And at that time, no one had e-commerce experience because it was all new. And so they were bringing people over from consulting gigs, and I was supporting them as a lead consultant, helping them craft their e-commerce strategy. And probably 2 months into it, they asked me to come aboard and build the team and build the e-commerce website. And that's how I got into fashion.
And was that just for a year purpose, not to date you, but is this 2000, 2002?
Yeah, 1999.
So it's interesting. We had Jean Jackson on the podcast, and I think she must have been doing the exact same thing you were doing, but she was doing it for Walmart.com.
Oh, interesting.
So Jean launched that as a joint venture with Walmart. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, there was a bunch of us, and I would call it on the pioneering side of e-commerce, because at that time it was mostly just TVs and books that were selling online. So I remember my friends and colleagues thinking I was crazy for thinking that anyone was going to buy luxury apparel on, this silly thing called e-commerce and the internet. But I was a believer. I've had an extraordinary journey ever since. So I couldn't be more grateful for making that first step.
Reminds me of when Steve Jobs came to address us at Gap. He was on the board, and it was a town hall meeting. And Steve Jobs said, guys, if I was in your shoes, there's one company, one word that I'd be most concerned with if I were you. And we all looked around, and he said, Amazon. We
Yeah.
laughed at him. They're booksellers. They're nowhere. We're big apparel brands. What did we know? Clearly he was right.
Yep.
So post Saks and getting, I guess, your retail feet wet with them in the e-commerce space, what was next?
So I was at Saks. What an unbelievable learning experience and leadership opportunity. I was at Saks. I ended up being their chief marketing officer, basically their chief digital officer. We built it to over $1 billion business. And then when Saks was bought by HBC, all kind of the C-suite left Saks because it was no longer a public company. It was a division. They didn't need probably our paychecks when they were buying us. And so we left, and I pretty quickly went to Ralph Lauren. I was the global president of digital at Ralph, which was an extraordinary experience because my first experience, I got my chops. I learned the chops of retailing at a luxury department store. And then I got the opportunity to learn it at one of the most iconic, as you know, Ken, American brands. And I had teams in Hong Kong and London in the U.S., and I oversaw e-commerce as well as digital marketing, digital technology, social media, et cetera. And it was an extraordinary learning opportunity. And for me, it's been very helpful to be on the brand side because being on the retail side, we're constantly negotiating and trying to get brands. So brands understanding that I worked for a big iconic brand like Ralph Lauren has been very helpful as a leader on the retail side, because at some point I got a LinkedIn request about a Walmart opportunity to run fashion at Walmart, online only, but it was still a big role. And a man named Steve Sadoff, who was the CEO of Saks Fifth Avenue and a mentor to me after, I was like, should I even respond to this? I've been in luxury so long. And he's like, run, do not walk, but run toward that opportunity, because in the end, it's going to come down to two retailers. And this is one of them. And you can either read about it in WWD or you can be part of the transformation. And I did it. And now I am where I am.
It's an interesting move. I mean, really coming from luxury and then a brand like Ralph Lauren to go to a Walmart. That's quite a shift in terms of what you were dealing with, the product category, the attitude towards apparel, how not inclusive the high-end product was. And now you're with the biggest apparel retailer. I think Walmart's the biggest apparel retailer in the world, but anyway, one of the largest retailers in the world nonetheless. What was running through your mind, aside from what Steve Sadoff said, which I don't think is necessarily not true, but was that good enough to get Denise to leave the world of luxury for the world of mass merchandise?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. So one, I've always been focused on companies more than I have on the specific role, like winning companies that I see have a path to continuing to win, because I think you learn so much from companies that have positioned themselves to win. So that's one of my criteria. And the two is, at that point, I've already chosen the path to become a transformational leader. And everything that I had done up until that point was about transformation. And so joining Saks Fifth Avenue when everybody said it couldn't be done, Saks Fifth Avenue can't have a big e-commerce business. Joining Ralph when digital was still relatively small and working to make it a big digital player in American brands. And then the same for Walmart, which was making Walmart credible in the fashion space online, which was the original passion, and democratizing fashion in a way and bringing the style and taste level that I learned on the luxury side and the discipline and bringing it to a Walmart. So whether it's a $500 dress or a $15 dress, I thought I could bring something that maybe hadn't been there before. And I thought it was the challenge of a lifetime. And so I was betting on the company, I think, more than anything. And I thought it'd be fun to learn another area beyond luxury.
And you've been with Walmart how long now?
Gosh, it's been, I think, 6.5 years. So I started my first maybe 2.5 years just focused on digital. And then the last 3 years, that doesn't quite add up, but maybe 3.5 years. And then the last 3 years have been both stores and digital. So I took over during the pandemic, I took over the store side as well. And that's been an extraordinary opportunity.
I would think the digital piece was quite the comfort zone when you went to Walmart.
Yeah.
but then taking on a much broader role, really directing the fashion for online and stores, a much bigger challenge.
Mhm.
Talk to us about that, about what that challenge actually was and what you hope to achieve or the goals that were set for you in this role.
Yeah. So, at the point that I was offered the role, I had been working with the store side for years at this point. So I felt like I really had an understanding of what the opportunities were for Walmart well beyond online only. Because Walmart is the biggest, and this is interesting because when I joined Walmart, I thought, oh no, Walmart is a grocery store. What am I doing? I'm going to have to continue to educate and fight for resources for fashion, teach about how fashion is different than grocery. It's not a spearfishing category online. It's, a browse and discover. And what I came to learn as an e-commerce person was the fact that it was a grocery store was actually, of course, an extraordinary benefit. And the fact that it's a huge differentiator that we have 4,000 stores and 150 million people going through our stores and online every week. And I'm going to say that again, 150 million people going through our stores online and every week. And so combining because my whole life I'd been focused on how do I get traffic in? How do we drive traffic? We have this incredible assortment. How do we drive traffic? Now it was the opposite, right? It's like we have this extraordinary traffic. And how do we build out an assortment that we can build this high margin, credible style business on this engine of that we're the biggest grocery store in the country. And that's unbeatable competitive differentiator in my mind. And so I was super excited about taking on the store role because I felt like the transformation was just ripe to be had. And the minute that Walmart started taking fashion and style categories seriously was the time where we would have competitive differentiation that would be hard to beat.
As part of your mission, you have these pillars. I think there are 3 pillars that are very important to addressing that opportunity, creating a fashion brand, fashion product, a fashion following to aid the conversion. And I'm still blown away by 150 million people a week. That's a really big
Me
number.
too, Ken. Me too.
But these 3 pillars that are your guardrails, share with us what those pillars are and how it has helped you take this business from what I would have also considered to be maybe an apparel light business, but much more around hard goods and grocery than I would ever have thought as a place to shop for apparel. So take us through your strategy, leveraging these pillars.
And I'll start with why we built the strategy, because the first thing, I did when I joined was, I was a McKinsey consultant for 6 or 7 years. So research and consumer insights was kind of embedded in the way that I lead. And so one of the things that we did very early on was understand how much of our assortment was fulfilling our Walmart customer needs. So think about those 150 million, not necessarily the people who are only shopping fashion, but the people who are shopping Walmart. And what we found was that 80% of our customers' closet wasn't being supported by Walmart fashion because they were in higher average unit retails than we were providing, because we were the pile 'em high, let 'em fly core and basics business, but they were getting the 80% of their closet that was more lifestyle from other retailers. And we also found that we were winning on price, not surprisingly, because we're everyday low price, but we weren't winning on the critical attributes that are most important to fashion shopping, like desired national brands, quality, style perception, trend, etc. Our shopping experience wasn't considered inspiring, and we just weren't part of the consideration. So based on that assessment, we laid out these 3 pillars that you just referred to, with a focus on how do we transform the offering and the experience and broaden our customer reach. And so the first focus was on bringing in a combination of really experienced Walmart apparel team who understood Walmart and our customer, and complementing that team with fashion veterans throughout the country. And so whether it was people from Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue and Nordstrom, or Kohl's and Target, but kind of across the board, bringing in extraordinary talent. And so they've been driving this transformation because, as you know, everything is a team sport. But the first focus was overhauling the assortment. And that includes overhauling our opening price point private brands. And we can dig into that, but we have big businesses there. Partnering with celebrities and fashion authorities to build our new elevated brands. And we have brands like called Free Assembly and Scoop, which is a former IP. You might know that store, and Sofia Vergara. So partnering with fashion authorities to bring credibility and then relentlessly adding new national brands. So that's all under the assortment side. And then, of course, focusing on our shopping experience, which includes store remodels and improving on our online experience. And then the third pillar and focus area is broadening our customer reach and changing perception.
It's interesting when you think about how you were adding or really building to that core product that was there when you started and looking to take 80% more of the closet that or get part of that 80% that you weren't getting. Fast forward to today, is it the Walmart customer who's now buying more of her closet with you? Or is it a new customer that's coming in and finding a pleasant surprise? Wow, Walmart has fashion for me.
It's a combination of both, but I would say the focus, Ken, was on the existing Walmart customer that wasn't shopping off of our fashion pad. And so they were going into the store and saying, I'm going to buy a $1,000 TV, or I'm going to buy a $200 KitchenAid, or I'm going to buy my food, but I'm not going to shop in the fashion except for maybe socks and underwear. And so we knew there was a huge opportunity with the existing customer. And it's always easier to and less expensive to capture more dollars from your existing customer than new customer. But at the same time, because we were doing, taking on some pretty transformational initiatives and partnering with, as I said, these fashion authorities like Brandon Maxwell to build out these new brands and Sofia Vergara, we were also attracting new customers at the same time because the initiatives that we were executing were attracting both, which was wonderful.
You mentioned you've brought in some national brands. You've acquired a few brands along the way. Curious to know, though, how big is your design team that's working on the Walmart product that is exclusive? And I would assume, as we discussed earlier, that the majority of apparel offered by Walmart is exclusive to Walmart, which is always a good way to maintain price and customer following. But how big a design team do you actually have to keep Walmart fresh and exciting?
Yeah. So when I got there, there was no design team. And so we were crafting our private brands, like 15 suppliers would build a $2 billion time and troop brand with each of their design teams. So you can imagine it's really hard to build brands when you have 15 different companies building out the design aesthetic. And so one of the first things we did was hire a veteran from Nordstrom's who had been building private brands for quite some time to build a design team in New York. And so she's been building out that team for the last 3 years. We have a nice sized team that I won't share the numbers, but we're very happy with the progress there. And now have DNA for each brand. We have a story for each brand, a target customer for each brand. We're giving direction with our manufacturing supplier partners on the brand DNA. And so are wholly focused from conception of design all the way through marketing on making sure that these big brands, and we have 4 that are 2 billion or bigger, and we have 6 that are 1 billion or bigger, which is extraordinary, that they have very specific DNA that where they're coming across as desirable brands. And then we've overhauled a number of private brands as well in the process, like a brand that was called Secret Treasures, which as an intimates brand is probably not as modern sounding, and shifting it to Joy Spun, which has been a tremendous success, both from the new branding as well as the better quality, the better style. And so there's a lot of transformation happening on that private brand assortment, as you pointed out. The majority of our business, especially for women, and, at the same time, also with a focus on bringing in national brands that our customers desire and want.
Denise, what you just described really aren't brands. Those are companies.
Yeah.
$1 billion brand. It's $1 billion company. It's a $2 billion
Yeah.
company. I think what's most important, and you hit on it, is focusing on those, we call them maybe from time past private label, but these are brands.
Yeah.
These are brands that have a DNA, as you mentioned, that need marketing, that need to live outside of the store and be celebrated by a retailer like a Walmart or anybody who's trying to promote a private label brand, a Macy's. All the attention needs to be given to those brands that help elevate it in the eye of the customer from a marketing perspective. Once it starts to look like, and you know this as well as anyone, a store brand or a store label, you just walk by it. But
Yeah.
as you begin to create and express the DNA and market the brand, it can take on a life of its own and really be hot. So it sounds clearly like that's what you're doing and the charge you're leading, building these $1 and $2 billion companies, brands at Walmart, which is super exciting.
And includes, to your point, like, yes, bringing in the design talent and building out the brand DNA and having a strong voice for each brand and making sure the assortment is right, but also thinking about what's the in-store experience, what's the creative in the store, is the brand appropriately conveyed both in-store and online? And then the marketing with influencers or affiliates and just making sure that we represent and honor these brands in the way that they come across with brands so that when you're shopping somewhere else, you're saying, well, where is Time and True? And you're surprised that Time and True is, not a national brand, that it's just exclusive to Walmart because it's become a brand that you covet.
Let's pivot to the customer experience. I'd love to hear more about what's happening online, specifically following your charge and your direction. And then we'll talk about stores. But tell us a little bit more about where online is today and what that customer journey looks like.
Yeah. This has been, one of my greatest passions, of course, because I've been in the online space for, as we noted at the beginning of this interview, for a very long time. And the site, not surprisingly, was built for spearfishing. It was built for food and consumables and TVs and toilet paper, and wasn't built for an inspiring and discovery and browse journey. And so we have been working to create a differentiated experience online, which includes everything from like complete the outfit, where you look at something and you look at other items that go with that outfit. And these are features that are not necessarily offered in the rest of the site, but are specific to the fashion part of the site. We have added left and top navigation, which is, again, not necessarily it's mostly a search site. And then while we've been working on these what I would call foundational features that are specific to fashion, at the same time, we're looking at innovative leapfrog features like virtual try-on. So 2.5 years ago, we invested in an Israeli company called Zekit. We've integrated their capabilities into Walmart. Really exciting. We started out with leveraging, you could find a model that looked like you, and we have north of 150 models of all different sizes and colors and shapes of people, women. And it was a tremendous success in that people could put the outfits on these models and get a better sense if I'm 6 foot or if I'm 5'2", what is this dress going to look like on me? And then we evolved to the next phase, which is where you're the model. And so we have virtual try on, which is very exciting. It's on a big part of our, what we call premium assortment, and we're continuing to scale and roll it out. And customers can see what the item looks like on them, which is fantastic. And now we have built out a shop with friends where I can send that outfit to my friends and get their point of view. And I very much believe, and I was an advocate of buying this company, it's a gamification of shopping that is going to be table stakes in the future, because we don't need to see the outfits on a random person. We really want to see the outfits on ourselves. In the past, having been in digital for so long, I've never been a huge believer in first mover advantage, because usually there's all the expense and the failures come to the first mover. But in this case, the algorithms have to learn. And so we made the decision to be a first mover here. And it's been very exciting in terms of seeing conversion improvements and return rate improvements that, frankly, we didn't expect.
I was going to touch on that with the purchase of Zeekit and the ability for customers to see product on themselves and how they look. Have you seen a decrease in the return rate? And it
Yes.
sounds like you have.
Yes, we have. And so we're really excited about the potential here. This is a long game. And so for us, it's constantly focusing on the foundational improvements that need to be made in the fashion online shopping experience, as well as the innovative leapfrog. What will the future of online fashion shopping look like? And how does Walmart play in that in a way that where we are positioned to win? And then, of course, leveraging our 4,000 doors as fulfillment centers and pickup centers is a huge advantage because 90% of the country lives within 10 miles of a Walmart store. And so being able to leverage that capability in terms of speed of fulfillment is a unique advantage.
Clearly, it's one of the key advantages you hold over Amazon. And no matter what Amazon tries to do to improve speed of delivery, it's convenient on the receiving side, but you can't run over to the store, try it on, take a look at a few things. It does become less convenient than having access to a Walmart that's 10 miles away, as you say. As you know, I've become a bit of a geek over the past few years, loving technology, which I was never into when I was working with companies. I always thought it was a necessary evil, but I've been impressed to see how certain solutions can really improve, whether it's the customer experience or the associate experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you're doing with AI. It sounds like you are really leading. And everybody, of course, wants to have Walmart as one of their customers. If you're a tech platform, it's the holy grail. I do tell the tech people out there a quote that I heard in the past, and I don't know who said it, so I'll take credit for it. When you get Walmart as a customer, is it the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning? Something to think about, but it's a great ride, period. Are
When
you
you get
using
Walmart as a customer, it can make your whole company. And, it is
it?
so gratifying to have these meetings because we have what we call open call, where we have people from all over the country in the U.S. manufacturers come in and pitch their wares. And it's so wonderful to see these small companies go from zero to hundreds of millions of dollars in sales overnight, being affiliated with Walmart. So I will say that changing the lives or businesses of suppliers, I'm very humbled to be able to be part of that.
I have a few people that I know that have started businesses with Walmart and grew them into behemoths because once you figure it out, it's how fast can you run and how far can you run. It's a huge opportunity, clearly. A couple of other things online, then we'll talk about the stores because I'm really interested to hear about the energy that's being placed there. How is Walmart looking at video online, or what's been your experience with video as it's been so important to younger customers, whether it's on TikTok or Reels and just social commerce? And you're already doing that by allowing your customers to share their looks with friends while they're in a store. So what's video meant to Walmart?
Yeah, we are investing and building capabilities in social commerce in a big way. I mean, we've been in the influencer business for quite some time. And then we have announced that we are building out a creator business where people can create their own videos and build their own shops with us, similar to what you do with other retailers. So all of that is an important part of not just Walmart's offering, but disproportionately distorted in fashion. As to your point, that's the way people shop fashion. So really excited about the potential there. We're in the beginning stages still, but I think that is one of our greatest growth opportunities going forward.
It sounds to me, Denise, like Walmart is really allowing you on the apparel side to really break some of the norms, change some of the rules, and find new ways of doing business that is new for the industry, but certainly very new for Walmart, and probably setting some great examples for other areas to pick up on. How have you seen your influence online with technology impact the other areas that you're not responsible for?
Well, we are in a transformational, everything that we're doing is focused on transformation. And of course, the rationale for it is the margins in fashion are the best in the store, right? And so everyone's in the rowboat to grow fashion. And I think that we all acknowledge we have a dominant apparel business, socks, underwear, tees, denim, the biggest denim business in the country, but we can do so much more. And so that, to your point, involves breaking a lot of things. And so we've been working with our marketing partners to reimagine the way we market, because frankly, marketing has not been a huge part of Walmart's operating model because we're everyday low cost, everyday low price. We help people save money so they can live better lives. And a huge marketing budget hasn't been part of that. But understanding that consumers are changing the way they shop and changing the way they get exposure to retailers, and making sure that we're leaning into where consumers are going versus where they've been in the past has been my focus. And I have had great partners on marketing and on the store side, and my peers and my functional partners, because it's a big team sport. And they've been willing and excited and eager to take risks as well. So I think it's now part of Walmart's culture and mindset, which is to lean into the future. And Doug says we are a people-led, tech-powered, omni-channel retailer. The tech-powered is an important new part of who we are. And whether that's drones making deliveries in your backyard, or driverless trucks, or many different areas where Walmart invests a tremendous amount in kind of breaking how we've done things in the past and investing in the future.
One of the areas that I'm fascinated with that's become quite important for major retailers, and even very important for brands to get into major retailers, is the marketplace. I know a significant amount of business is being done via marketplace on Walmart, which, just for those, to make sure everyone knows what that specifically means, it's product that you don't necessarily own, but you show online and customers can purchase it. It's not that transparent to customers as to what's marketplace and what's Walmart, but major retailers today are leaning heavily on marketplace because there's no inventory requirements. It's mailbox money, so to speak. How are you taking that, if you are, to the stores? And let's talk a little bit about the stores and what that new store design looks like, and how customers maybe can participate beyond what's just in the store with product that's in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, so I will say that marketplace is a critically important part of our strategy. And we have a shared assortment that's in store and online. We buy 1P, which means that we work with brands directly and buy their goods exclusively for online. And then we have marketplace, where marketplace sells through our platform. And we have more than 200 million SKUs in fashion, our fashion assortment in marketplace. So as you can imagine, it is a big part of our strategy because we're a long tail category. And so we want to be your first choice when you're shopping for fashion. And in order to do so, we can't be limited by our box and what we bought for our store and putting it online, but we have to be able to provide our customer that long tail. So marketplace is a critical part of the strategy. We have hundreds of millions of SKUs in marketplace, and we're continuing to build that out. That is a distortionary for us going forward, because we know that as we continue to build that out, we're able to satisfy our customers even more so.
Denise, question for you. If I were a vendor listening to this podcast and I was going to work with Walmart, and Walmart offered me the ability to put my product in the marketplace, would I have an opportunity? Do you review how product is performing and look to take product from marketplace to actually a buy and be online and in stores? Could that be a path for my product?
Absolutely. And we have online brands who have done very well and that we've brought them in store. Chaps is a great example of a wonderful brand for men where we offered it online and it did extraordinarily well. And now we've brought it into our stores. And so we are constantly thinking about, online you should think about as the testing area, right? And then we think about how does that brand do and what geographic areas does it resonate and where do we bring it into the stores? And so having both channels makes us smarter about what we offer in both channels. And so We encourage that. And we encourage everything to be marketplace, right? There's some of it we will buy 1P only, but the goal is to offer the full assortment. And so whether we buy it or not, we want to offer it marketplace.
Let's talk about the stores. What are you doing to reinvent the Walmart stores and create the right fashion environment for your customer?
Yeah. So, back to the three pillars, like fundamentally overhaul the assortment, make sure style and quality and all of that resonates, improve the shopping experience, and change consumer perception and broaden the customer reach. We know that we can't change consumer perception if the stores don't change, because the pile 'em high and let them fly model is very good for some categories, but it's not going to position us to win in fashion and get that other 80% of his and her closet. And so we underwent, 2.5 years ago now, we piloted our store remodel in Northwest Arkansas, which is where we're headquartered. And we pulled out 10% of the inventory, 10% of the racks. We added mannequins for the first time. We added digital visual displays. We opened up the aisles. We improved the lighting. We changed the fixtures. We took price signs off what we would call the elevated brands up front. We created brand shops, and we completely changed the fashion shopping experience to the point where people, when they see our new store remodels, which we have about 400 out today, think that they're in a department store. They're like, whoa, where am I? Because we have created brand shops, and we've also focused on those categories where we're the category killer. Like, we're the biggest denim retailer in the country. We should present denim like we're the biggest denim retailer in the country. And so really with the focus on highlighting our brands, our new premium brands, like whether it's Free Assembly, Scoop, or Chaps, or USPA, or highlighting our category killers like denim and tees, or, inspiring the customer to shop in ways off the mannequin. We have example after example where customers in line with their groceries and they see a mannequin and they pull their cart out of the line and they go running to the fashion area and they buy the outfit that they saw on the mannequin. And so it's a very different store shopping experience. The customer loves it. The NPS scores and the customer insights feedback has been across the board very positive. And as I said, we rolled out about 400 this year. We'll continue to roll out hundreds of these new stores across the country until we get through all 4,000 doors. But this, I think, back to that strategy of changing consumer perception, is one of the single biggest levers that we have to get people to think differently about Walmart fashion.
You made these big changes to the store, from the visual to the amount of inventory on the floor. Tell me what it felt like the day you walked through your CEO through the store to share with him this new experience. How did you feel? How nervous were you? I can't even imagine having to tell him. And who was the CEO at the time? Was it Doug?
McMillan. So you're nailing it, which is he loved it. We had, again, it was one store that we piloted, and then we ended up piloting it with 30 stores and then so on and so on. But that one store, and it was so interesting because we had changes in the store that we call it the store of the future. And we had changes through baby and pet and home and fashion, but fashion was by far like 80% of the change. And I knew from my head down to my toes that it was the right answer. And this, I think, is part of the maybe benefit of bringing in talented executives from all over the country who really understand fashion, that this was the right answer for us. I didn't know how the sales were going to go because we pulled 10% of the inventory out and 10% of the racks out. But I really believed that it was the right answer. And Doug immediately got it and loved it. And then the sales were through the roof in that store the very next day and stayed through the roof for weeks. And so it was exciting because we had never looked like that before. And it was exciting to get not just our fashion team believing, but our store operators and our marketing team and the rest of the organization believing in the transformation that we were driving.
It's amazing. That must be one of the crowning moments of your career.
The opportunity to have an impact at this scale and to be able to serve customers better than we've ever done before at this scale, and to give everybody the opportunity to look beautiful and shop in a nice environment, irrespective of your household income, has been, I always say it's like the culmination of my career, has been like the privilege of my career, because I loved working in luxury and I love the top 1%. And I have nothing but great things to say about what I learned there. But to be able to serve the 99% is extremely fulfilling.
How does Walmart get this message out to
Yeah.
customers who might not be Walmart customers, but if they were in the store, they would become a Walmart customer?
Yeah. Well, that's the third pillar, which is broadening our customer reach and changing consumer perception. And that includes influencers. And Ken, you and I have been in this business for a long time. And gosh, when I first started, it would have been Elle ads and Vogue ads, and, it would have been very limited. But I feel so happy and lucky to be working in a time where we can leverage all these micro influencers, thousands and tens of thousands and hundred thousands of people, and leverage their credibility to tell our story, to drive accelerated perception change.
Clearly, the results are phenomenal, or you wouldn't be rolling out to every single store. So I won't quiz you on how well it's doing. It's doing well enough. And again, congratulations on leading that strategy. What challenges face Walmart fashion today?
I always think of ourselves as only 10% of the way through our journey. So there's a lot more ahead of us. And even though we feel like we've accomplished so much, most of what we have to do is still in front of us. So continue to bring in those key national brands. And it's a virtual cycle, right? You bring in this brand and you get this brand, and you bring in this. So continuing to build our national brand assortment, continuing to build out our private brands. I'm very confident that our team has that and are making good progress there. I think the biggest challenge is the store rollout and executing 4,000 stores with the discipline and rigor. That's hard to do. And so we have to work in new ways to make sure that we're romancing the product across 4,000 doors. And then I would say the other big challenge is the one that you just asked me, which is how are you telling people about this transformation and making sure that we are effectively sharing this transformation and getting people to think differently about Walmart. And then I would say internally, just making sure that our internal capabilities keep up with our aspirations, like tools and things like that, which, like, you've worked in retail, you know how hard that part of it is. We don't talk about it, but that's one of the hardest parts.
Changing perceptions, always a challenge. And it really sounds like you've moved the business a long way from where it was and certainly from how it's perceived. If you could go back 30 years, Denise, and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
30 years, I would say everything in your career will be about influencing others and getting others to believe in what you are collectively trying to accomplish. And you can't, as a single individual, accomplish anything. And so you need to make sure that you are building the relationships and network, and that people understand your strategy and that you're supporting other people, because everything that you will work to accomplish is going to be through influencing others. And most of those people do not report into you. And I would say when I was green and early on in my career, I thought working 16 hours a day was sufficient to get it done. And now later on in my career, I realized that everything's a team fight. And I'm, very dependent on my partners to get anything over the line.
Well, it sounds like when you buy 200 million SKUs for a marketplace alone, you must have a team that's pretty darn good to help you get it all done. Because
I would say that's
the numbers
second,
blow my mind.
Yeah, that's the second one, Ken, which is you're only as good as the team that you work with. And, there's nothing here that's one individual. It's the team that we have right now is so committed to this vision of democratizing fashion. And we have designers that have worked at Ralph Lauren and J. Crew and Gap And we have merchants that have worked at Neiman Marcus, Saks, and Nordstrom's and Target and Kohl's. And everyone is so passionate about what we're doing. So it's exciting to see this incredible talent believing in this vision and making it a reality.
Let's move to rapid fire. Are you ready?
Okay, shoot it.
Favorite designer?
Favorite designer? I would say I'm a longtime Gucci girl. And I know Gucci may not be the brand of today, but it's one of those brands that I've been buying for 20, 30 years. And in the end, I'll always be loyal.
Where is creative inspiration derived?
Gosh, I remember my trips to Paris and London and Hong Kong. I mean, that's on the streets. It's everywhere. That's one of the reasons why we have our design team in New York, because you don't even realize subconsciously what you're seeing on the streets and how much that affects fashion. So I think on the streets, certainly, but everywhere.
If we were shopping high-end mall and we were separated, what store would I find you in?
So first, you'd never find me in a mall. But if I was in a mall, because I'm not a mall girl, but if I was in a mall, you'd probably find me at Saks Fifth Avenue because I, worked there for a long time. And, they're still a favorite of mine.
As long as your buys still aren't there, then you'd be in good shape, right? Last item you purchased at Walmart?
Gosh, I shop every day there, but a dress. I'm sure I bought a dress yesterday.
Favorite streamed show?
So now I'll share, I am definitely a stream show junkie. I should be reading books, but I am a stream show junkie. So I just finished, and don't judge me, but I just finished One Day with my 17-year-old daughter, and we both loved it. And then I think before that I watched The Tourist, but I will say that I watch everything. I love content.
You'll have to compare your list to my wife's because she's a junkie too. Final question. Who would you most like to meet?
There's so many people, Ken, but I would say, somebody who would get me to think differently about life, like a Gandhi, or to think differently about how to get fulfillment out of life and, the purpose of life. So I would go with someone like a Gandhi.
And with that, we'll land this flight of the retail pilot, Denise Incandela. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Ken. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's flight of the retail pilot. And please give us a review on your favorite podcast platform.